Nobody wakes up one morning and just, decides to ruin their life.
Right, yeah. It doesn't happen like that.
Exactly. The most dangerous, profound shifts in our habits, they don't happen with this loud bang. They happen incredibly quietly. Yeah, it's when a single glass of wine on a Friday night to just sort of unwind subtly, almost imperceptibly morphs into, 2 bottles on a Tuesday just to survive the evening.
Wow. Yeah, that is exactly how it starts.
Right.
Yeah.
So today we are bringing you along on a deeply important mission for this deep dive. We're dismantling the lethal societal myths surrounding substance use, mental health, and those invisible barriers that keep so many of us just trapped.
Trapped in that cycle of waiting,
Yes, waiting for a tragedy to strike before we even feel allowed to ask for help.
It's an incredibly urgent conversation for you to hear, largely because the cultural narrative we've built around coping mechanisms is, well, it's not just inaccurate. It actively prevents people from getting better.
Yeah, it's actively harmful.
Totally. And the focal point of our exploration today is this really insightful clinical reflection and service overview from a Georgia-based telehealth practice.
Coping and healing counseling, right?
Yeah,
CHC.
Exactly. Specifically, we're looking at a remarkable piece of writing they released. It's titled, When the Glass Becomes 2 Bottles, a Closing Reflection.
Okay, let's unpack this because, reading through this reflection, the first thing that really strikes you isn't the clinical data. It's the tone.
The tone is so different from what you'd expect.
Right. It is completely devoid of the usual moralizing or judgment that just always clouds this topic. It just presents this unvarnished, almost uncomfortable truth about how these patterns develop in our daily lives.
And that lack of judgment, that's what makes it so disarming. The source strips away the stigma and points directly at that subtlety you just mentioned.
The quietness of it.
Exactly. The progression is insidious because it is just so quiet. The weekends start blurring into the weekdays.
Yeah, Tuesday feels like Friday suddenly.
Right. And what initially started as just a casual way of, taking the edge off after a hard day, slowly, almost mechanistically, morphs.
Yeah.
Until it becomes the absolute only thing that can take the edge off.
And what's wild to me is that the reflection notes that the person going through this, they aren't oblivious.
No.
It makes this really poignant observation. If that subtle escalation has happened to you, you already know.
You feel it.
Yeah. Nobody has to stage some dramatic intervention for you to realize the pattern has shifted. Something inside you is, already ringing an alarm bell.
But knowing the pattern has changed and actually acting on that knowledge, those are 2 very different psychological states.
Oh, totally.
And that brings us to the first massive roadblock the source calls out, which is the lethal myth of rock bottom.
Right. Ugh. This persistent, deeply harmful idea that you basically have to lose everything to, qualify for help.
What's fascinating here is how deeply ingrained that narrative is in our culture. We have this collective, almost subconscious assumption that unless someone has destroyed their relationship...
Or lost their job?
Exactly. Lost their job, ruined their health, or completely sacrificed their dignity. We think their problem simply isn't bad enough to warrant intervention yet.
It's so messed up.
We tell people, essentially, to come back when their life is in ruins.
It's so frustrating. Think about how absurd that standard is in literally any other context.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're driving down the highway
Right.
and you hear a little ticking sound in your engine and the oil light flickers on.
You don't just keep driving.
Right. You don't think, well, the engine hasn't literally exploded and caught fire at 70 miles an hour yet, so I don't qualify for a trip to the mechanic.
That would be crazy.
It would be insane. You take it in immediately because you actively want to prevent the explosion. Why on earth does society demand complete and utter destruction before we grant ourselves permission to heal our own minds?
That's a perfect analogy. And to build on that car comparison, the clinical reality emphasized in the text is that early intervention in substance use is just dramatically more effective.
And probably way easier, too.
Much easier to navigate than late intervention. Waiting for the engine to explode, waiting for that mythical rock bottom has cost an enormous number of lives.
Yeah, because by the time they get there, there's nothing left.
Exactly. By the time someone hits rock bottom, their resources, their support systems, their physical health, they're often severely depleted, making the climb back up just exponentially harder.
The damage is so much harder to repair once, everything is scattered in pieces on the highway.
Right. And the text states something incredibly powerful that completely reframes this entire dynamic. It says, you already deserve care, not when you hit bottom, not when it gets bad enough. now.
Wow, not when it gets bad enough.
Yeah. It highlights that quietly noticing your own pattern, before anyone else has even noticed, is actually one of the strongest possible places to start from.
I love that.
It's an act of profound self-awareness and strength. It is not a sign of weakness.
So, that naturally bridges us to the next massive question here. Because if we know that waiting for the explosion is dangerous,
Which it is.
and we know that quietly noticing the pattern is the optimal time to act, then, well, why do people wait?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Like, if you notice the glass has become a bottle, why is it so incredibly hard to just, stop the behavior right then and there?
Because the substance isn't just a random mistake. The answer the source provides fundamentally shifts how we need to understand addiction and dependency.
Okay, how so?
People wait, and people continue to use, because the substance is actually performing a crucial heavy lifting function in their psychological ecosystem.
Huh.
It's doing a job.
A job.
Yes.
A job. Okay, that shifts the whole paradigm for me. So it's not just a lack of willpower or some moral failing. It's a mechanism.
Exactly. It serves a purpose.
But the source points out that substances are almost always doing something highly specific for the individual, right? Like quieting an unmanageable anxiety.
Or dulling a crushing depression.
Yeah, or holding back grief, or just numbing a severe trauma.
We culturally tend to view substance use as the core problem, like the bad thing that just must be eradicated.
Right, the enemy.
But from a clinical perspective, it's often a deeply flawed, highly destructive solution to an underlying unaddressed problem.
Oh, wow. A destructive solution.
Yeah. The text explicitly notes that co-occurring anxiety and depression are the rule, not the exception, when it comes to substance use.
Okay, wait, I'm trying to picture how this works in practice. So the substance isn't just a bad habit. It's almost like a terrible, toxic employee who is unfortunately doing a critical job in a chaotic company.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Right. Imagine you run a business
Yeah.
and you have this one employee who is just ruining the company culture, screaming at customers, alienating everyone.
A total disaster of a person.
Total disaster.
Right.
They are the literal only person in the entire building who knows how to run the payroll software.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a trap.
If you just fire that toxic employee without hiring a replacement to handle the payroll, or, in this case, to handle the grief or the anxiety, the whole company goes under.
It collapses.
You can't just get rid of the substance if you don't have another way to do the heavy lifting it was doing.
That is spot on. And taking that toxic employee analogy a step further, if you just fire them, the work doesn't stop.
Payroll still has to get done.
Exactly. The trauma doesn't vanish just because the alcohol is gone. The anxiety still demands to be managed.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
This perfectly illustrates the clinical concept of dual diagnosis and why treating both issues simultaneously is literally the only way the company survives.
Because otherwise you're just left with the raw problem.
Right. If you only focus on stopping the substance use, the underlying pain is left entirely unmanaged, and the person will almost inevitably rehire that toxic employee out of pure desperation.
Because they just need the pain to stop.
Yes. This is why treating the underlying issue at the same time as the substance use produces far stronger, more sustainable long-term outcomes.
Right, because when the underlying job gets done by someone healthy, the pull of the toxic employee completely weakens. You don't need them anymore.
Exactly. And this brings us to a profound philosophical shift mentioned in the reflection. It says, shame fuels use. Compassion fuels change.
Shame fuels use. Compassion fuels change.
Yeah. When we finally understand that a person isn't broken or bad, but rather they're just trying to manage overwhelming pain with the only tool they have, we can replace the shame of the behavior with compassion for the pain.
Which is so crucial because shame seems to just make you want to numb out even more.
It feeds the cycle.
Like if you feel intense shame about drinking, the anxiety of that shame spikes, and what do? You call the toxic employee back into the office to deal with the new anxiety. It's just a closed loop.
Shame keeps the cycle running in perpetuity. Compassion is the actual mechanism that breaks the loop.
Okay, so let's talk about breaking that loop. If the goal is to use compassion to handle that underlying job, what does actual successful change look like?
It's probably not what most people picture.
Yeah, because I have to admit, reading the source completely shattered my pop culture understanding of what recovery actually is.
It dismantles the Hollywood narrative entirely. The text reveres a reality that might legitimately shock a lot of listeners, which is that most people who change their substance use never go to rehab.
Wait, really?
And they never go through a 12-step program.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying recovery isn't just like shipping off to a facility somewhere?
Not for the majority of people, no.
Because movies and TV tell us it's a dramatic 30-day inpatient rehab or, a tearful intervention with the whole family or absolutely nothing.
It's very black and white on TV.
Yeah. It's portrayed as this hyper-rigid, singular path that requires completely uprooting your life.
The cultural narrative is incredibly narrow, mostly because it just makes for good television.
Right, drama.
But the clinical reality is far more nuanced. Most people who successfully change their use rely on regular outpatient therapy, strong social support, and personal resolve, all while continuing to live their normal lives.
Wow.
Furthermore, the source points out something that challenges decades of traditional dogma. It states that moderation is a clinically supported goal for many adults.
Moderation. Not just strict, lifelong abstinence from day one.
Correct. Moderation is often a valid path.
I mean, the source does clarify that abstinence is absolutely the right, necessary goal for some people.
Oh, yes. Depending on the severity and the individual's history, abstinence is sometimes the only safe route.
Right.
But the fundamental takeaway here is that the right path is the one that fits a person's actual life and is matched to their actual capabilities and goals.
This sounds more like a custom-tailored suit rather than a one-size-fits-all straitjacket.
I love that comparison.
Like the straitjacket implies you're dangerous, you have zero choices, and you must conform to this one extremely restrictive, uncomfortable shape. But a custom suit is designed for you, your measurements, your lifestyle, your specific underlying needs.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that custom-tailored approach is exactly why this information is so liberating.
Yeah, it gives you options.
Think about how intimidating the straitjacket approach is. The idea that to get help, you must stand up, declare yourself an addict, go away for 30 days, and swear off everything forever.
That's terrifying for most people.
It acts as a massive psychological barrier to entry. People think, well, I can't do all that right now, so I just won't do anything.
Right, they just give up before they start.
By acknowledging that moderation is clinically supported for many, and that change often happens through weekly therapy rather than rehab, the barrier to attempting change is drastically lowered. It makes taking that very first step feel entirely possible.
Which brings us to the ultimate pragmatic question here.
Okay, what is it?
So we've removed the shame. We've established it doesn't have to be a dramatic upheaval. But let's be real. Even if you're listening to this feeling incredibly brave and ready to change,
Yeah.
hitting a wall of insurance paperwork or trying to figure out how to even start the process without totally exposing yourself is enough to make anyone just give up.
Oh, absolutely. The logistics are daunting.
How do people actually bridge that gap between I want help and I am getting help without getting paralyzed by the friction?
The source gives a very clear, gentle answer to that. As we mentioned earlier, quietly noticing your own pattern is the start.
Right.
But to move from noticing to acting, CHC serves as a fascinating case study in what a frictionless first step looks like.
Frictionless. I like that word.
They've actually created a free, totally private 2-minute substance use screening right on their website. It's at HAETtherapy.com, called Mental Health Tests.
And when the source says frictionless, it means there is zero gatekeeping.
Not at all.
You don't need to enter an email address to begin. You don't make an account. And it uses validated medical questionnaires, right?
Yes, specifically DAST and an Odyssey-style questions.
And for those who might not know, those are just the gold standard assessments used in the medical field.
Right, they're everywhere in medicine.
They spot the subtle differences between normal use and risky patterns completely objectively without any moral judgment built into the questions.
And it scores instantly, giving you clear next-step guidance based on your actual answers.
That's amazing.
You don't have to identify yourself to a receptionist, you don't have to commit to therapy, and you don't have to share the result with a single living soul.
It's like checking your credit score in private on your laptop before you ever walk into a bank to ask for a loan.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
You don't have to commit to the loan officer. You just get a quiet, honest read on where you stand so you can make informed decisions in peace.
That's a vital comparison. What coping and healing counseling is doing here is systematically dismantling the structural barriers to care.
Taking them down one by one.
Exactly. The private screener dismantles the psychological barrier of shame and premature commitment. But then, if someone decides they do want the help, CHC dismantles the logistical and financial barriers, which is where the broader healthcare system usually fails people.
The logistics of mental health care are a nightmare for most people.
Total nightmare.
Finding someone who is taking new patients, who is in your area, who understands your specific issue, it's exhausting.
Precisely. But taking CHC as our example of how this should work, they provide 100% HIPAA-compliant telehealth,
So it's all online.
all online.
Yeah.
This means their services are accessible across all 159 counties in Georgia. Geography is completely removed as a barrier.
Oh, wow.
Whether you're in downtown Atlanta or deeply rural county hours away from a clinic, you have the exact same access.
That is a game changer for rural areas.
It really is. And they've built a culturally competent team of over 15 licensed therapists. Licensed clinical social workers, professional counselors, marriage and family therapists.
A really diverse team.
Yes, and they ensure they have experts in substance use disorders and those co-occurring issues we talked about, perfectly matching the need to treat both the toxic employee and the underlying job simultaneously.
And it isn't just substance use they cover.
No, not at all.
The practice specialties span the whole spectrum of those underlying jobs, like anxiety, severe depression, trauma and PTSD, grief, relationships. They offer individual therapy, couples therapy, even teen therapy for kids 13 and up.
But then there's the financial barrier, the biggest wall of all.
Yeah, therapy can be so expensive.
The text explicitly outlines their insurance accessibility to prove that specialized care doesn't have to be a luxury just for the wealthy.
Thank goodness.
They accept Medicaid, which is incredibly crucial for systemic access, with a $0 copay.
Wait, really? A $0 copay?
Yes. They also accept a wide range of commercial plans. Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Humana.
So they basically take almost everything.
Pretty much. They are engineering a system where specialized dual diagnosis therapy is financially accessible right from your living room.
It's an entire operational model built around removing excuses and fear.
That's exactly what it is.
And, the text also notes a really interesting detail directed at other medical professionals, like the primary care doctors who screen and refer patients.
Right, the front line.
CHC has made these free, instant, anonymous screeners available not just for substance use, but for the 7 most common adult mental health presentations.
Yes, so that's anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD, bipolar, OCD, and substance use.
All taking just 2 to 5 minutes.
Yep, all at that same frictionless link. The clinical reflection actually suggests that medical providers integrate that URL into their after-visit paperwork.
Yeah, that is so smart.
If a patient leaves a physical exam undifferentiated about a mental health concern, they have a private tool to explore it at home. It's a way to extend this compassionate discovery process out into the wider, often much colder healthcare system.
Okay, so what does this all mean?
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. If we step back and look at the entire journey of this deep dive, we've moved through some massive paradigm shifts regarding how we view ourselves and our struggles.
Huge shifts.
We started by tearing down the destructive myth of rock bottom, that incredibly dangerous idea that you have to lose everything to be worthy of help.
We can't wait for the engine to explode.
Exactly. And we replaced that with the understanding that a substance is often just a toxic employee frantically trying to do a necessary job, like managing anxiety or holding back trauma.
Right. We've also dismantled the rigid, media-driven, one-size-fits-all model of recovery. We've revealed that compassionate, customized care, sometimes focused on moderation, always focused on integrating with the individual's actual life, is highly effective.
And finally, looking at the CHC model, we've seen that the path to this customized care is available right now, right from home, without shame, and with the logistical and financial gatekeeping significantly lowered.
It's out there for you.
It really is, and I want to reiterate that profound, overarching message directly from the source to you listening right now. You already know. And you already deserve care. Tonight is enough of a reason to start.
It is a powerful place to conclude our analysis. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your week.
Oh.
We've spent this entire deep dive discussing how substance use is often a maladaptive attempt to do a necessary job, like quieting anxiety or holding back grief.
Right, the toxic employee.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, if you look closely at your own daily life, what other seemingly negative behaviors, frustrating habits, or compulsions might actually be desperate attempts at self-care that just need a healthier, more compassionate outlet?
Man, that is definitely something to think about. Until next time.